68. 70. 73. It's a mathematical impossibility for those numbers to add up to 10, but in this case they do, a perfect 10. Because this is the story of a phenomenon that defies all logic. This is Barry Robran's story, his football and his life.
Robran has hit the grandstand roof.
Good punch away by Nelson.
Nelson it was, and it's taken away here by Robran. Robran's left-footed kick is a beauty. Robran's lost his decks. Not going to worry Barry. The coverage is brought to you from Channel 9. And there's Rodney Robran on. It goes towards Barry Robran. The Roosters coming home well. There's the big long kick on from Barry Robran. Right up towards the square.
Already going across the ground to Barry Robran. And Barry Robran marking it centre half forward for North Adelaide, some 60 to 70 metres from goal.
Yes, I think 5 or 6 years ago, Kenny kicked these. I'm just wondering whether he's still got the length in his kicking.
Robran with the ball now. Normally a great kick, as Peter Marcus said. The drop punt on its way. The accuracy there. So is the length. A magnificent kick. That's his 11th kick, his second goal. Miles with the kick up towards the half-forward line. Carl, Robran up high. What a great quarter this player's having. Robran with the mark now on the half-forward line. A 15-metre penalty kick being imposed. And Barry Robran now going for his 14th kick on the half-forward line. Pack forming in the goal square. Robran will put the ball right into the teeth of goals. Robran now. Spiral punt kicks on its way. It's a magnificent kick off the boot.
Drives it towards centre half. Oh, look at that. Classical Barry Robran. All the brilliance of the champion.
And that, without doubt, is the mark of the day to this stage.
See, he was a football cheat. You got to realise that. A cheat because he was 6 feet 3 or 4 and could handle the best rover in the business on the ground. Like he could rove a ball as good as any rover. He could knock ruck as good as any ruckman. He could play centre as good as any centre man. So he was a cheat actually in the football sense because of his ability to do everything in the various levels, various height areas.
19 points of difference now as Hammond thumps it out towards the 55-metre mark. It's a big kick and a big leap for Robran.
There it was, Robran over the top of White. That's the first time that we've seen it.
Robran now onto his left foot, thumping it down towards Marsh, and he's got it.
I was mindful of young Barry's football ability, I think, a lot earlier than most. He was playing junior football up there when I left, and the word was around that this young kid had a bit of ability. And when I came down to West Adelaide, I said, look, there's a young lad up in Whyalla by the name of Robran. I think you should send a scout up and have a look at him. He's got a bit of ability, and naturally they did. And I think as the years rolled on, when Barry started playing towards the end of his junior football and started going into the senior ranks, every club knew of his ability. And he just had that tremendous image of Don Lidner in his mind. Don was his idol, and Barry was one of these guys that you couldn't influence him in any way, particularly financially. He just wasn't interested in that. Far cry from some of the youngsters nowadays. He just wanted to play with Don Lidner.
Well, apparently he was always a North Adelaide barracker. I don't actually know how he came to pick North Adelaide, but I have heard it said from him and a few other people that North Adelaide was just his side, and I suppose it's one of my great feats, I suppose, that he reckons that I was one of his idols, and being a tall bloke, I suppose he used to like the high marking features of the game, and the president at the time, Jack Forrester, and one of the other committeemen, Norm Herring, said, look, we've got a job for you there. We've got a chap over in Whyalla that you're his idol sort of thing. Would you come over with us? We want to try and secure his services.
Whyalla, at the apex of South Australia's Iron Triangle, the place that launched 1,000 ships, and the launching pad for the man who would soar to the very pinnacle of Australian rules football. a 9-to-5 mild-mannered clerk with the steel giant BHP. But in his own time, even in 1965, Barry Robran was already on his way to becoming a sporting superman. He was earning a high-flying reputation in the Spencer Golf Football League. Names like Broadstock, Kretzmer, Barrie, Growden, Richens and Curley are testimony to the fact that they've always taken their footy seriously in Whyalla. So have the league talent scouts. But in 1966, it was easy for the North Adelaide contingent. The kid who grew up at 100 Ward Street was ready, willing and able. Neighbours Kate and Carmel Reynolds remember Barry Robran, the boy next door.
Well, he was really good. He wasn't none in the streets, but be in the backyard playing, probably sometimes in my place. But he was a very shy kid and very quiet.
So he wasn't a rowdy neighbour at all?
No, there was no rowdiness, but he was a very good kid. But wherever you seen him, the ball was there. Football, cricket ball, or tennis ball.
Well, because your brothers weren't particularly interested in sport, I guess you sort of developed an early interest in football and cricket.
With the Robran boys, yes, I suppose so. They were always out there kicking the football, and we used to join in as kids and all play football with them in the back lane, and cricket and one thing and another, yeah.
Now, did you play as equals, or did he sort of make concessions for the fact that you were a girl?
He used to make concessions, obviously, because he could kick further than what the girls could, but, you know, they were very good to play with as well.
Now, in the nicest possible sense, he used to keep you up at nights?
Yes, he used to often listen to the Test cricket when it was played in England. He used to sit up all night, and he was very interested in the cricket, even as a very, very young lad. Yeah.
Riveted to the radio by night, and by day, his first teachers remember, an above-average student. When Barry Robran did come to Adelaide in February of 1967, he enrolled as a first-year student at Whyalla Park Teachers College. He left there after only a few months, but this is where he spent the first 7 years of his school days, at the Memorial Oval Primary School. It was then called the Whyalla South Primary School. Among the Mays, the Taylors, the Warrens, the Jarvises, it's almost prophetic that the name of Barry Charles Robran should have then been at the top of the list. As a primary school student, young Robran was in everything except the headmaster's bad books. Athletics, cricket, tennis, football. He was a regular member, even then, a star performer in all the school teams. Those performances would be emulated in later years, and not only at school, by his younger brother Rodney. And even when the academic going got tough at high school, Barry Robran kept going at both his studies and his sport. High school teacher Miss Joan Knight remembers the sportsman and the scholar.
Barry, the scholar at high school, was very modest, quite small in build for his first 2 years, and then he shot up. By the time he left, he was getting to his present size. He was prefect, he was house captain. He was a very fine sportsman, not only in football, but also in cricket, cross-country running as well. He was a very good team man always. And I remember him because he was a very quiet and unassuming and very modest boy. From his earliest days at the school, it was obvious to his fellow students that he was going to make a mark on sport, and they said so in school magazines and things like that. This is a report, part of the report from the Monarch House report in 1960. I would like to congratulate Barry Robran on being elected captain of the juniors. This boy will be a major threat in sport to the other houses in the coming years. And in 1961, the junior football and cricket teams centred around Barry Robran, who has used his sporting ability to the utmost. A cricket report from 1961. Particular praise must go to Barry Robran for his outstanding performances in the school matches. His final 21 runs against Port Augusta were well earned, as he is still only a junior player. Much more will be heard of Barry in future school matches.
Never was a truer word penned. North Whyalla Football Club. In 65 and 66, this is where the raw Robran talent began to be refined, And there could be no finer smelting pot. Some of the greats previously associated with the North Whyalla Magpies include legends like Jack Broadstock, Neil Curley, Kevin Growden, Lyle Kretzmer. On any day of the week, you'll hear their names and many others come up in a conversation which invariably leads to the subject of Bones Robran.
How did you get the nickname Bones? Rats, did you nickname that or what?
Yeah, that's our basketball team. Remember Brucey Bernhardt, Danny, Barry there. He was about the only time he ever played sport. He never wore number 10, I reckon. That's where he got his nickname, Bones. You can see what the arms.
They look nice and thin, aren't they? Look at that.
And look at the head there.
Gee, still a lot better than he was there.
Must have been all the coaching from Arthur.
The team of bodgies there, and look at Barry, well groomed and all the rest of it. They're still the same. What's that, Bert?
Oh, there's a book that Lee Garwood made up of the 1964 team. Oh, here it is here. Barry Robran, nicknamed Robbie. This boy is a brilliant mark and kicks very well with both feet. Run up to the Norman medal this season, which is 1964, but led his team to a 14-goal victory in the grand final. He played one SGL game this season on the wing and acquitted himself very well indeed.
Former teammates and still good mates. Back in 1965, they, along with Barry Robran, were being moulded into footballers and into men by coach Arthur Beaton, who recalls, in the case of young Barry Robran, physically at least, he didn't have a lot to work with.
That's right. No, he's about 5'2", I imagine 5'2", 5'3" at the tallest. Very shy kiddie. There's one little story I remember. I told all the kids that they had to call me Arthur, not Mr. Beaton, and he went home and objected to his parents about that. That didn't think it was right that he should call me Arthur and not Mr. And that was only a minor objection until he refused to play and he threw his boots away when I wouldn't let him play because he had a sprained ankle. It was only a trial match, and Barry went home and threw his boots over in the back lane and told his mother that that's the way the old ex-Westie coach is going to treat us. He said, I'm going to give up footy. And he threw his boots away.
As a youngster, did he exhibit the magic at 15 that we saw in his later football years?
Yes. Yeah. Honestly, I think I always likened him to Jack Broadstock in West Adelaide, who I always reckoned was the best footballer I've ever saw, until young Robbie came along, and he played a similar game to Broadstock. He had all the tricks and everything to go with it, and you don't see too many people who can play that sort of game. Well, he was a natural, really. He was the sort of player you'd put in a team and coach the others. And he was that sort of player, and he was so popular with everybody else, you know, that you just fitted a team around Barry Robran. And I don't think anybody really could take credit of ever coaching him. I'd say right after me to anybody. He was a complete footballer. Well, in those days, we weren't money-minded, and everybody was that pleased that Barry went down there. It was the whole club were that proud of the kid, and there was no animosity. It didn't come until later that they realised that they'd lost a fortune, and that Barry virtually went for nothing, that he wasn't paid, or North Whyalla were not paid anything. Barry just went down and played. But I think the whole team was that, well, North Whyalla particularly, were that proud of the kid anyway. And I even made the statement he'd win the McGarry medal the first year, and he only come third. But this is the whole feeling of the club in those days, that we were that proud of the lad that he went to North Adelaide.
And none prouder than Barry's immediate family. His father was also an accomplished sportsman, particularly on the cricket pitch, as Neil Curley fondly remembers.
Oh, they were great days in Whyalla with Tack Robran, which is Barry's father. Tack was certainly a senior partner. He and I used to open the batting for the North Whyalla B grade. And I was the dasher. I was just young, about 19 years of age, and Tack was the steadying influence. And we played the whole season in 1955 as the opening pair, and we had a lot of fun. And I remember young Barry, he was only 7, I think then, or 7 or 8. He used to come down and watch us, and that's when I first met young Barry. I'd known Tack because of the association with North Whyalla Football Club, who eventually Barry played for, and we had a lot of good times and a lot of fun.
Yes, having grown up in the country, I think sport is an integral part of country life, especially for young people, we had to make our own fun and our own enjoyment, and we did that through sport. We were forever organising our own football and cricket matches, and that was how we filled in our time. But it was a very enjoyable way of filling in our time, and we did that through sport.
So being brought up in the country was perhaps an advantage in that you weren't distracted by the things that teenagers in the city would be distracted by?
No, probably at that age we felt that we were missing out on a lot, but in hindsight I'd say that we weren't, because it was a very healthy upbringing, it was a very healthy environment, and it was a wonderful way of making lasting friendships.
Did the family and the neighbours ever mind the kicking of the footy in the backyard and the bashing of the cricket ball up against the wall? Was there anything to overcome there, or was it fully supportive?
We were very lucky that families either side of us had children the same age. So if it wasn't in our backyard, it was in their backyard. And I guess we just all accepted that these things would happen, and that we all shared the problems or the concerns or the breakages that we may have incurred. But generally, there were just so many kids within our neighbourhood that we were all a part of it together.
Were you actively encouraged by your mum and dad to pursue a career in sport, or did they just tolerate your whim at the time?
No, they were very supportive. Things weren't easy when we were growing up as kids, but Mum and Dad were always prepared to go without for Rodney and my sister Julie and myself. If it meant a sporting trip or a sporting item, then they were always prepared to make a sacrifice. And so from that point of view, they were terribly supportive.
So was Barry's first real coach, former league footballer Arthur Beaton.
Yes, Arthur Beaton played football with North Adelaide and West Adelaide before going to Whyalla, and he was coach of our North Whyalla under-16 and under-17 side, and I consider myself very fortunate having played under Arthur Beaton as a coach. He taught us kids a lot at that age.
He taught you specifically what?
I think tactically about the game, and obviously he was refining our skills at the same time, but I think we learnt more about the tactics of the game from Arthur than we had any of our previous coaches.
Now, you've never been known as one who spits the dummy or gets terribly upset, but I believe there was one instance with Arthur that did upset you when you had a sprained ankle and wouldn't play, or he didn't want you to play.
Yeah, he ripped me off at three-quarter time in a trial, and I got a bit upset with him.
To what extent?
Oh, I think I remember going home and throwing my footy boots over the back fence, saying that I was never going to play footy again or something like that. But no, I was probably a bit foolish in hindsight. I did have a crook ankle, but at that age you just want to play sport, and that's all I wanted to do.
How long did it take you to decide that it might be a good idea to go and get the footy boots that you just tossed over the fence?
Oh, probably within the hour I would have gotten them, and I was at training again on Tuesday night.
Barry Robran would achieve the rare distinction of representing his state at both football and cricket. He was called up for Sheffield Shield duty in 1971, but even back in '65, he knew where his priorities lay.
Yes, I always wanted to play league football. I'd always idolised Don Linder. My mother and I had always barracked for North Adelaide, not that we ever saw them play, but we were always listening to the radio every Saturday. And I just had a burning desire to play football for North Adelaide.
That desire was realised at league level for 201 magnificent games, arguably none better than North's 71 grand final victory over Port.
They've been contained in this department by Robran, Patterson and Spawn, who've kept the Magpies' chances down to an almost absolute minimum. There are no replacements in either side for the second quarter. Dashing through, Mildy endeavours to snare possession for Port, but Robran is paid a free. Sidestepping away from would-be tacklers, his purposeful boot puts Norths in a strong attacking position. Barrie spoils Collins, but still Port's handling is suspect, and Norths exploit the opposition's errors. The alert Robran is everywhere and celebrating his 24th birthday with one of the finest games of his career. His well-directed pass is marked by Phillips. Mike Patterson guards against complacency, appreciating Port's renowned qualities when the going's at its toughest. He wants a reproduction of the play that took the Roosters to the minor premiership. It's Port's 7th goal of the quarter, but the Magpies need at least 4 more, and they probably won't have enough time. Ebert's pass is intercepted by Hammond, and as seconds are vital to Port now, their chance of victory is hopeless. Recovering from the onslaught, North's counter. Hurl passing for dual McGarry medal winner Barry Robran, hailed as the Roosters' man of the match. The final siren, and Norths win 10 goals, 1979 points, to Port's 9 goals, 559 points. The first Victorian to coach a South Australian Premiership winning side, Patterson's historic feat is acclaimed. South Australian Premier Dunstan presents the Thomas Seymour Hill Cup to an exuberant Patterson, who takes Norths to their first premiership since 1960, and their 5th since the introduction of the Page-McIntyre final system 40 years ago. So, the Roosters really have something to crow about in 1971.
In 1971, Robran was already a household name in South Australia. But in 1967, he was a shy, lonely kid from the country, a long way from family and friends. The blow of that culture shock was softened by the warmth and comfort he found in the home of Bob Hammond's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Harley Hammond.
Yes, this was his home. How he came to live with us, I was away on business, and Mr. Norm Herring from the North Adelaide Football Club approached my wife and said to her, would we take a boy from the country who wants to play with North Adelaide? And she said, oh, I don't think so. We're not looking for boarders. However, she relented, and the boarder turned out to be Barry Robran. When I came home from Sydney on business, he was this man living in the house, and it was Barry. And he lived with us from that day until the day he was married. He was married from this house. And we were referred to by him as his town mum and dad over the years that he was with us.
I was a bit dubious at first because some footballers, you just don't know them. But they really told me that this boy was real nice and good. So we took him in, and he arrived here on that was on the Saturday night that they asked me, and he arrived here on the Sunday morning with his little baby Austin full of sporting gear. And there was baseball and football and tennis gear all in the back, And he just fitted in, and we've loved him, and I treated him just the same as a son. And I spoke to him straight out the way I spoke to Bob when he was playing. And Barry really idolised Bob, and and this game here was his first game at Unley back in April 67, and he was BOG on the ground that day. He was absolutely marvellous. As he was coming off the ground, I can see there Bob holding his arm, and I said to Barry, when he got home, I said, I know what Bob said to you. And he said, what, Mrs. Hammond? And he said, come on, Barry, have a shower. You can sign those autographs afterwards. And then, of course, he went on, I don't know, it was that year that he won the McGarry medal or the following year. And and he was embarrassed about the McGarry medal. He just couldn't believe it. And people were knocking on the doors, and he just didn't want the limelight. He wasn't that type of boy, and he still isn't. He's just a wonderful boy. He's always been like that, and he stayed with us until he was married. And but he is really a lovely boy. There's no doubt about him. This photo here was the one that he was receiving his McGarry medal on the Adelaide Oval, and I'll never forget it because he said, I've thanked everybody, and then he also said, I want to thank my town mum and dad, and that was wonderful, really.
Was the Barry Robran that we saw on the football ground the same Barry Robran that would come and sit down at your table and have tea?
Oh, yes. Yes, He didn't talk football very much, and we didn't press him, you know, we just talked ordinary. In fact, one night, there was a knock on the door, and we were having dinner, and I went to the door, and they asked me, was Barry living here? And I said, yes. And I said, come inside, and I took him in, and I said, Barry, well, there's a chap, he wants you in the lounge. Anyway, Barry went in and was talking to him, and he went out and came back and had his dinner, and I didn't say anything more to him. But next night, I just put the wireless on. He walked down the passage, and it was from work, and I heard them say, Robran signed with Carlton. And I said, who? Barry, not you? He said, yes. He said, that was the chap here last night. And because I said to him, how much money did you get? He said, I didn't get anything, Mrs. Hammond. And I said, oh, goodness me, Barry, you... But Barry wasn't interested in money. He just wanted his career and he loved his football, and that was all there was to it.
Invariably of a Saturday morning, Barry would say to me, Mr. Hammond, would you come out and give us a kick in the backyard to warm me up? Well, the lad next door, Malcolm Ellis, who is now playing with North, used to join in, and as old as I am, I used to kick the ball around to these two young fellas in the backyard. I'd come out, finish, you know, and they were just getting warm.
I was very fortunate to live with Bob Hammond's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Harley Hammond, and it was just like living in a home away from home. They treated me like a son, and I've got some wonderful memories once again of having lived with the Hammonds for, it must have been 3.5 years. They were very, very good to me.
While his league career with the Roosters didn't start until 1967, Barry Robran first wore the red and white of North Adelaide in a second semi-final against Port Adelaide in 1966. It's history now. He was named among the best players. Barry Robran played only one more game for North Adelaide that season, in the second's preliminary final against Norwood. Barry was again named among the best players, but North Adelaide lost. They lost the game, but they won the services of a man who would, in the next year, begin a 201 league game career, during which he would win that club's best and fairest award no fewer than 6 times. Win the Magarey Medal for the league's fairest and most brilliant player on 3 occasions. Play in 3 North Adelaide grand finals, winning 2 of them. Captain the side for 4 years and coached them for a further 3 years.
Corns is down and hurt himself trying to spoil Barry Robran, who's definitely coming back into this game.
Towards centre wing.
And there's Rebick. Steadies. Colby's gone. They're all gone. Towards centre half forward. Up goes Freddie Phillips. The brilliant Robran. Through he goes. Steadies. It's on its way. It's going to go off this boat. And it's goal! Oh, they're going to win this, North Adelaide. Plummer's there. 2 minutes have gone into the time-out period.
He's cramped. That's Mike Patterson in your screen. He ran up and down the boundary line a few moments ago. He was just so excited he couldn't contain himself. If Plummer kicks this, North Adelaide go to a 5-point lead, and we've had 2 minutes of time on. He's really cramped as he comes in for this one. Through it goes, and full marks then to Barry Robran, who got the ball down.
You're dead right. Barry Robran, desperate, rushes past 2 players, left foot's at 15 metres, and through it goes. And we have now 5 points for the 2.5 minutes played.
Everything he sort of does is very unobtrusive. I mean, even the type of game he plays, he sort of marks the ball, but by the time you're sort of just going to applaud what he's done, he's already got rid of it, and it's down the field somewhere. So he's very unobtrusive in his life and also in his football. So it's very sort of hard to appreciate. You don't sort of remember these big soaring marks and sort of think, gee, there's a bloke's never done that sort of thing. Everything he did, he made it look so easy that, you know, we sort of don't appreciate that talent probably until it's not there.
Up towards the centre of the ground. Pack forming Walker, Sly from behind Till. Can't hold the mark to Barry Robran. A lovely handball to North Adelaide player out there, giving the North Adelaide player the run of the ball in towards full forward.
There's no formal education towards graduation in the first grade. Kids from the country like Barry Robran have to learn the hard way. Port Adelaide champion Russell Ebert knows what he went through because he did it the same way.
Well, when you're about 17 or 18 and coming down to the so-called big smoke for the first time, it is a little bit of a unsettling feeling, but you've been playing really against men in the country, and I think this gives you good grounding coming into a prospective league career. So I don't think you have the pressures of under-17s and under-19s and coming through the grades in town. I think the advantage is playing against men. You're a little bit harder, probably a little bit better physically developed, and you come down here with all the hopes and aspirations of playing league football.
In 1967, Barry Charles Robran won the Vic Johnson Memorial Medal for the best first-year league footballer. And Bob Hammond recalls the young centreman come half-forward had a mortgage on it right from the very start.
Yeah, well, as I recall, it was on the Oval, and I think it was after Barry's very first league game, and what a game that was. What a start to a league career that was so magnificent. I think that day, in order, he stood Shearman, Schoff and Bagshaw, all great players in their own rights, took them apart and was clearly best on ground, and one wouldn't have envisaged what a great career he'd go on and have, but certainly if you think back to that game, it's certainly no surprise that he played with such distinction that he did.
The kid from the bush called Barry Robran, I stood in his first league game. And, well, when I say I stood, I was close to him when they bounced the ball at the start of the game and for the first few goals, and I had a very good spectator view from the half-forward flank after the first 15 minutes. And Barry Robran that day put on the skills, or showed the skills and the balance and everything that makes a champion footballer. And North Adelaide officials, they believed that they had a champion from the country, and what he displayed that day and future years of his football certainly vindicated their belief that they had a champion on their hands before he played his first league game.
Bob's probably being a bit unkind to himself there. I did manage to get a few kicks that day, but I can assure you that Bob Shearman did also, and I've got a very, very high regard for Bob Shearman as a footballer.
You said Don Lindner was your hero from
Yes.
boyhood. What was there about Don that caught your eye?
Not that I ever saw him play all that often before I came to Adelaide, but I'd always seen photographs in the paper of Don Lindner taking spectacular marks, and I guess as a kid you tend to think of the high marking type of player as being the better type players, and I guess I always just worshipped Don Lindner because of the fact that I always saw photographs of him in the paper taking high marks.
And did he have an influence on you?
I guess his influence on me was that I wanted to play for North Adelaide because he was playing with that club, and I guess I always wanted to play in the club that he was playing for.
Long before oil companies were talking about quiet achievers, Barry Robran was being described in newspaper reports as the silent one, like a submarine, silent but deadly. His football skills spoke for themselves, and the newspapers echoed those statements each and every week. As Don Lindner recalls, 1967 was a very hard year to pick up Magarey medal votes.
That was the first year he came down. I'd been coached the 4 previous years, and I gave up the coaching. Jeff Motley took over that year, and I only just had the playing role, and I was going fairly well on the ball and that. And actually I was changing with Barry as it turned out. He was on the ball as well, but he went so well that year that I don't know whether I robbed him of a Magarey medal or he robbed me, but he was only 1 vote behind me, and I tied for the medal. So, you know, he played a bit too well from my point of view, but from his point of view, it might have been the other way around.
The following year, Barry Robran did win the medal. At the end of counting, he and the then South Adelaide captain-coach Peter Darley were tied, each on 22 points. Each had 6 first preference votes. Each had 1 second. Each had 2 thirds. But Darley had been suspended for 1 match during the minor round, so the medal was Robran's, and it would be the first of 3. Again in 1970. And then again in 1973, the umpires adjudged Barry Robran as the fairest and most brilliant player in the league.
Hammond thumps it out towards the 55-metre mark. It's a big kick and a big leap for Robran.
There it was, Robran over the top of White. That's the first time that we've seen it.
Robran now onto his left foot, thumping it down towards Marsh, and he's got it. There, tackle well, more strapping than Cardigan Bay as it booted out by Jaworski.
Up towards the centre of the ground and marked here by Barry Robran. He'll try and find a Guernsey on the half-forward line.
That's the second kick in as many minutes. He's getting away from White.
Goes wide as I predicted and finds Barry Hurl.
It's got it, lost by that player on it, goes to Nyland. Nyland's lost again, the tackle was good. Player had to go on, picked up there by the mercurial Robran.
Footy commentators all but gave up trying to describe the Robran magic. They ran out of superlatives. Of all who tried, perhaps the respected advertiser journalist Jeff Kingston best succeeded when he wrote simply, Barry Robran is a man in whom nature succeeded.
Yet seen Barry Robran get a kick, but it didn't end up hitting a red and white Guernsey fair in the middle of the chest, and this is the value. He doesn't have to get a lot of kicks. They go where they should go. Very quiet in this quarter.
Spry and Mildy. Mildy may have perhaps won the edge. Phillips taps it down to Barry Robran. Where would North be without this chappie? He's playing well, but he's forced into error here, or forced to kick it very high. North haven't gained a great deal. Schubert went without the ball. It wasn't Schubert, it was Rebick, the half-forward flanker, which reminds me, I don't think I've called Schubert as yet.
Nyland's been one of the best players for Port Adelaide and has beaten him.
Second time he's kicked out on the full in this term. There's a strong mark to Barry Robran. You can say what you like about this fella. He is a champion.
No doubt about it. He will not give up trying. He's been dogged all day by a good player and is starting to come out on top.
To the half-forward line it goes. A strong mark here to Rodney Robran, his brother. Ian Aitken, you said so many times during the season, players getting in trouble with that third bounce. A minute into the time on, a minute off the time on, and there's Barry Robran.
And that's the player they're trying to stop. Russell Ebert has the job now. White had done a fair job up till halfway through this quarter, and they've tried Ebert, and Ebert can't hold him.
21 points of difference now, and there's the mark to Rodney Robran. Great game from this chap too. Grimwood breaks clear, too slow, taken away, hand passes back from North Adelaide to Paul. That was Howard, back towards the right half-back flank. James leaps high, but too late, and the mark has been taken there by Barry Robran. Picked up there by White. White goes forward, dumps it down towards centre half forward. A mark there to Cunningham is not on, but he follows it up very well. Pushed to the back, no, it's not taken away there by Fonberto. Fonberto kicks it down towards the left half forward flank, and Barry Robran will mark.
Well done, Robran. This is the first time that I've seen him off the ball in this game, up in the forward pocket, having a breather, and this mark taken well in the forward pocket. If he puts this through, it's still a good night nurse as far as Port Adelaide are concerned.
He's the 1968-1970 McGarry medalist, whacking it through, acting vice-captain with Patterson missing today's game, and what a great effort from him. Started in 1967, and he's had every honour in the game showered on him since.
He's had 16 kicks. He's taken 9 marks. He's kicked a goal. He's had innumerable handballs. He's hit it along the ground. He's hit out magnificently. He's had 2 players to beat in good ones, White and Ebert, and he's done all of that to put his side further in front.
I guess my greatest memory is still my first league game. Because I always had that desire to play league football, I still recall that one as being my most memorable game, and very, very close behind those are the 2 premiership matches that we won in 1971 and 72.
So let's have a look at these scenes now as the victorious North Adelaide side come off the ground. That's John Plummer running up to Patterson, and surrounded by North Adelaide players. There's Patterson running now towards the centre.
Punctuating Barry Robran's magnificent 13-year career with his beloved North Adelaide was 17 state games, and in 1974, the state captaincy. Robran was awarded his first state Guernsey in his very first year in senior football. He won state selection after only 10 games with North Adelaide. And right from the outset, Barry Robran was a dominant force in interstate football.
Matthews back there. Up there was Robran. They want to play $70,000. It's reputed over there as it's coming away there from the centre for Victoria. The centre man, Jezelenko, but the whistle is gone. Thompson, Robran with a long hand pass down ground, looks for Graham. Graham had a little look. Taken, well done, lad. Short kick over, fine centre half forward in James. No talking there at all. Right in front for mine. The kick away now from Southby towards a half-back flank. Oh, leaping up there. Robran now dominating in the second half.
No doubt about that. Since switched onto the ball, he's looked a different player.
A short kick on to Graham, and Graham's taken the mark. Victoria looked home and home. Richardson's kick goes down towards the right half-forward flank. Have a look at Robran now as he leaps up high, and there's a mark for you. Beauty, hand passes on, taken there by Morey. Morey breaks clear. There's the big chance now for Thompson, gets it clear, takes it away there by Matthews. Matthews is tied, the brilliant Robran. Robran's marked.
It's now a matter of record that almost every club in the VFL sought the services of Barry Robran. It seems the most persistent were Essendon, Hawthorn and Carlton. In fact, in May 1969, Barry Robran did sign a contract with the Blues. No money changed hands, for 2 reasons. Barry didn't ask for any, because he had no intention of going anyway.
Siren, I believe, has gone. The goal's on the board, and Victoria win by 4 points.
But that's not the way it appeared at the time to his then boss at Featherstone Interiors and former North Adelaide president Dave Birchall.
The difference at the finish in favour of Victoria.
This
particular day, I read in the paper that he'd signed with a Melbourne club. And I was appalled because, you know, I was president of the club he played for, I employed him, I was like a father, he was my best friend, and he'd never mentioned anything about it. He meets past my office door and I said, "Hey, what's this signing in Melbourne?" He said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Well, gee, you might have told me." And then he realised that, you know, he thought perhaps I thought that he was going to Melbourne. He said, "Oh, no, I'm not going to Melbourne." He said, "I only signed to get rid of him." He said, "You got no idea. They turn up 9:30 on a Sunday night with a Form 4. And, so he signed and get rid of him. And I said, "All right, well, fair enough. What did you get for signing?" Because a scrubber from the bush in those days would have got 1,000, let alone him. He'd won a couple of Magarey medals. He's about the hottest bit of real estate and football in Australia. He said, "Oh, I didn't take any money." And I said, "Well, you know, we don't owe the Vics anything. Why didn't you take some money for signing?" He said, "Oh, no, he couldn't do that." He said, "Because I'm not going." And that's that.
I found it hard enough to adjust coming from Whyalla to Adelaide to live. I don't think that I could have adjusted in going from Adelaide to Melbourne. I consider Melbourne to be obviously a very much larger place than Adelaide, and perhaps more impersonal, further away from home where my family still was, my mother and father and brother and sister, and I just didn't want to go through another upheaval like I did when I came from Whyalla to Adelaide.
Because you were being pestered fairly consistently by the Carltons, the Essendons.
Yes, although I think from the start I made it fairly clear to them that I didn't really have any intention of going to Melbourne.
Do you think had you not had that accident in '74 in the state game in Sydney, you may have considered at a later stage playing in the VFL?
I think I would have. Although I had the accident when I was 25, or halfway through that year when I was 25, so if I was going to go, it would have had to have been in the next year or so. And I may have liked to have tried it for a year or two, but I guess we'll never know that.
What we do know is that a brilliant career came to an abrupt halt one fateful day in June of 1974. South Australia were playing Victoria on the Sydney Cricket Ground.
Yes, it was about 2 minutes to go, and I led from the goal square, and Rick Davies had given me a perfect pass on the chest, and I had my knee out in front to protect me from anything coming from in front, but I guess I hadn't reckoned with the strength and the bulk of Lee Matthews, and that was when the damage was done. It was a state game, and it was always an honour to represent your state, and certainly to be captain of a state side. And I certainly don't hold any animosity towards Lee Matthews because I know it's the way he plays. Although he collided with me late, it was fair, and I've always accepted that.
Because unfortunately it didn't do your career a lot of good after that. You only played 40-odd games in 6 seasons after the surgery you had.
Yes. Yes, that was about all. I guess I kept going because at the time of the injury I wasn't all that far away from 200 games. So for the last 4 or 5 or 6 seasons I just kept going and playing a few here and there, trying to reach my 200th game without being in imposition on the side. I felt that while I was able to play and able to perform, I was quite happy to do that.
While nature had indeed been kind to Barry Robran, fate was cruel. He suffered injuries that would have crippled lesser mortals. Had it not been for the support of wife Tammy, sister Julie and brother Rodney, among many others, those injuries might have crippled him too, mentally. In his later football years, Barry didn't have a dad to turn to, but his mother Glad had always been there.
Yes, this is when Barry was captain of North Whyalla senior Colts here. And Arthur Beaton was the coach, and Barry thought a lot of Arthur. He really gave him a lot of praise for his football. That one, this one, taken with his father. Barry was only about, I think, 6 or 7 there.
I guess Tack was very proud of his two boys.
Yes, he was too, very proud. This is Barry with Rodney when Rodney came down and played his first game, taken at the airport. Oh my gosh, this is a great one. Very wet down here this day. Oh, this is dreadful. I have to more or less scrape the mud off their shorts and jumper there. Poor Mrs. Hammond would have that job of cleaning those.
If we may, let's go back to Barry's childhood days in Whyalla. Would you describe his childhood as a normal one?
Oh yes, yes. He was no different to any other child. He was always out either with a football or a cricket bat in his hand with all the other boys. We had a big vacant block at the back of the house we lived in, and that was really good for the kids. They used to really play out there and had the time of their lives. No, he was very good as a young boy.
So it's all the normal childhood diseases?
Oh yes, tonsils, everything. He had a lot of trouble with his tonsils and teeth. But no, he's just same as every other child.
Well, I guess it's a broad observation, but every other child needs discipline every now and again.
Oh yes, no, I didn't have to discipline him, but discipline him very much. He was very good. He got his first Titan when he was 3.5. He's from his father, and I went crook. Because evidently his father was watering out in the backyard and he kept turning the water off. But no, he was a very good child.
What thoughts go through your mind when your boys are out there sort of getting beaten from pillar to post by other big bruises?
It's a terrible feeling. You just wonder if they're going to come off in one piece. I still even do it with Julie now too. But it just worries you when they're out there because it's so rough. And they've all had serious injuries with their knees, all the same knees.
Do you worry more when you're up in Whyalla and they're playing down here?
Oh, about the same. I won't go and watch it down here. I would never go and watch them down here. I used to go in the country because we used to sit in the cars and sort of you could shiver and shake in the cars, but I never ever went to the football in Adelaide.
Do you ever wish you had have gone and seen some of the games here in Adelaide?
Yes, I would have, but I was working in the kitchen over at the club here every Saturday, cooking over there, and I was sort of working it all the time when they were playing, really.
So was that working in the kitchen, was that an excuse
not
to watch?
Keep me occupied and get my mind off it a little bit.
I guess it's very sad in a way that Tack didn't see Barry fulfil his career.
That's true, that's very true, yes. He would have loved it. He was very proud the night he won his first medal in our little house in Whyalla. We couldn't get inside the door, it was just packed out. Everybody was so thrilled.
It seemed there was almost always something to celebrate in the Robran household. It's not too many families that can boast 2 league stars, 2 club captains. On the field, at times, the perfect pair. Even though they were 5 years apart in age, sometimes they thought like twins.
On the field, we had quite a good understanding, being brothers, because probably going back in the early days, Barry and myself used to kick the ball to each other. This was 11, 12 o'clock in the morning to get a feel of the ball and get sort of ourselves keyed up for the big game, which we're about to play. And when Barry was playing ruck rover centre and I was at centre half forward, I used to lead to him a lot, and he used to pick me out quite a few times because he was an exceptionally good passer of the ball, and I suppose he got to know my voice, and we did have a fairly good a pull between each other on the field, yes.
He's going to earn them with White. It was well done. The pressure is being kept on the champion, and we'll see a really good go, and Big Marriott fell on top of him.
19
3
points
kicks,
the
3
difference.
players he's found. 3 kicks in as many minutes, and each time the pass is found a North Adelaide player. What have we got now? His brother at centre half forward, getting away from me, but he would be 40, 45 metres out on a very slight angle.
Important shot for North Adelaide. Haven't looked settled at any stage yet. Here's the shot from Rodney Robran. It looks fairly good from here. It's squeaked across for a 6-pointer and one Wally at the 20-minute mark that I felt they needed very badly.
Well, that's the second goal that's been kicked from centre half forward by Rodney Robran. He's done a good job.
And really, he did a tremendous job to even get out there some weeks where I think a lot of other players would not have got out there. So his courage and will to win and the will for the North Adelaide jumper, he certainly did a tremendous job. And, you know, it's a credit to him some weeks that you know, that he got out there, and even him playing half as well as his normal game is certainly, you know, just as good as some other players playing at their best. And he suffered many, many bad injuries, and he played with them. He had to be injured very badly for him to not play. And of course, the knee injury, unfortunately, it happened many years ago, because probably if it happened today, they certainly know a lot more about injuries, and he'd be still playing probably today if it wasn't for, you know, a few bad leg injuries. And his knee injury was probably at the time one of the worst ever, if you go by the scars on his legs. And but he got back. He came back playing with a brace, and he still played quite a few good games. But take it from me, he suffered badly every time he walked out onto that oval.
Something only a brother would know at the time. But yes, Barry Robran did go through mental and physical hell to achieve that goal of 200 league games. He must have been in pain, but he didn't let it show.
Doesn't normally miss those, Barry, but did on this occasion, but backs up beautifully.
He scoops it out. A chance for Barry Robran. The crowd cheers as he kicks up towards Archie, who takes the mark at half forward.
As the ball is kicked forward, Jan Hoekman there. Robran reads it off the pack beautifully. Kicks back, wing side, 25 for Sturt, and that is Paul Tulloch takes a good mark. Takes off, wastes no time, kicks towards centre half forward. The big North Adelaide hands go up, can't hold it. Dolan's there, so is Wolford, so is Weatherald. Oh, strong body by Barry Robran, doing plenty. Back to Hoekman.
At the back is Malcolm Ellis, does some good shepherding work to allow Barry Robran. Out wide to Dillon, showing plenty of aggression. Across to Robran, who appears to have all the time in the world. The handball over and a chance for the Blues to go forward. Oh, Evans is solidly met by Robran.
The umpire throws in again. Willsmore, Robran over the top, gets the knock. Diorio tackled, ball on the ground. Hoiked out by Diorio to Robran.
Giving Billy Loken the chance. He plays on with a handball to Barry Robran. Or the old professional trick was on there, but Barry was awake to it. Got the handball away and finds Captain Loken there.
That makes the 30th mark to North Adelaide and the 9th to Sturt only as Robran goes out wide. North Adelaide playing the short game and doing it well. Robran getting the handball down. Again, the massive players. Diorio to Robran. An awkward-looking kick, but it's effective.
Barry, the question on everybody's mind, why the comeback in the last minor round and in the reserves?
Probably two reasons, Dave. I think the first one, I wanted to find out how much work I have to do over the summer, which is still a bit more, and I think secondly, I couldn't go through a year without having a game of footy, so today was the only chance I had, so today was the day.
Like most football followers, everybody wants to see Barry Robran back, but I'm sure most football followers don't want Barry Robran injured. How did it come out?
Oh, he probably ran out of puff a bit in the last half. Really, there's not much more damage that I can do to it because the cartilages are out and the ligaments are tied, so it's just a matter of strengthening it up over the summer.
And how did it feel to be out in the ground again?
It was really good, Dave. As I said, I couldn't go through a year without having a game, and I really enjoyed it.
What does the future hold, Barry?
A lot of work over the summer, and I hope it comes up okay for next year. I think I know what work I've got to do now, and I probably look forward to next year more so than any other season.
What sort of work will you entail during the summer then?
I bought myself a push bike. I'll be doing a lot of riding over the summer, and my family like to go down to Whyalla surfing during the summer, so I'll spend a fair bit of time in the water as well.
All right, Barry, all the best and congratulations on a comeback today.
Thanks, Dave.
I'd always wanted to play 200 league games with North Adelaide, which I achieved, and the 201st game I played was against Glenelg out here at Prospect Oval, and I struggled that day and perhaps did a few things that I wasn't all that proud of, and I felt it was time to give it away.
Had you sort of purposely kept yourself hanging on for that 200-game milestone?
Yes, I'd been so close for such a long time, and the odd games that I had played, I didn't think that I was an embarrassment to the side. So I felt that while I was able to get a few touches, I was quite happy to continue playing up until the last one when I played very poorly, and I felt that it was time to give the game away.
But he couldn't give the game away entirely. After captaining his side between 74 and 77, he also coached Norths from 78 to 80. And when he finally did give it away in 1980, he suffered 3 years cold turkey before the addiction lured him into the SANFL side Walkerville. But 2 serious eye injuries and a broken ankle in 1 year would finally end his playing days. The sport was good to him. It was also cruel to him. and yet he couldn't live without it.
If it hadn't have been with football, I would like to think that it would have been with some other sport, whether it have been cricket or tennis. But in hindsight, knowing how much enjoyment I've had through sport, I would dread to think what life would have been like without sport at this point of time. And I'm still very actively involved in sport, so I'm just pursuing that avenue of enjoyment for as long as I can.
And for Barry Robran these days, there are plenty of side streets off that main avenue of football. As it was with Tack and Glad, Barry, Rodney and Julie back in the 50s and 60s in Whyalla, so it is today with Barry and Tammy and their sons Matthew and Jonathan these days in Adelaide. Both the boys are keen sportsmen. It's obvious Matthew's no slouch. Even Barry's work is play, to a point. He's employed as a development officer with the Department of Recreation and Sport. He's been called up for duty as a member of the state football selection squad, and in what's left of his spare time, he coaches the Sturt Special Youth Squad and the Walkerville Under-13s.
Always got two chances of winning the ball, of marking it or picking up a free kick. If you're behind, you really haven't got much chance at all, especially at this age. So get yourself in front, and I'm sure that you will all get more touches of the ball. Ruckman, you're too far back at centre bounces, and Mr. Murphy's been out to both of you and said come in closer at centre bounces, and you haven't done it. Now I say these things to try and help you. But remember, and I've said it so many times before, if you can't pick the ball up, then soccer it as hard as you can in the direction that you're kicking. Good.
Notice a certain ranging style? That's one of the Robran boys, Jonathan. After all that football's done for him and to him, Barry admits he'd be the proudest man on earth to see Jonathan or his elder brother Matthew one day make it into the league side at Prospect. Mother Tammy may secretly harbour different ideas, but perhaps the Robran magic lives on.
Try, Jake, pick it up.
To Finneman, he's met very heavily and fairly by Barry Robran. Already going across the ground to Barry Robran, and Barry Robran marking at centre half forward for North Adelaide, some 60 to 70 metres from goal.
Yes, I think 5 or 6 years ago, Ken, he kicked these. I'm just wondering whether he's still got the length in his kicking.
Robran with the ball now. Normally a great kick, as Peter Marcus said, the drop punt on its way, the accuracy there. So is the length, a magnificent kick. That's his 11th kick, his second goal.
He's one of the rare breed that come along. I think they broke the mould when they made Barry Robran. I know he comes up home and plays tennis. Like, we all know what he's like on the footy field. You know, we've seen that. And if it hadn't been for that tragic knee injury that he sustained in the dying moments of that game in Sydney against Victoria when Matthews fell over him or fell across him, who knows? He could have gone on to anything. And his cricket, we've seen that. But it's in the tennis that not too many people realise Barry loves a game of tennis. And he often comes up home and plays. And he's the only guy up there, because, we're pretty serious up there. And he's the only guy that plays up there that calls them out when he hits them and in when you hit him against him. He's fantastic. I was like, gee, that was close, Barry. Good shot. He said, no, it was just out, Neil. And, he's playing against it. He's so fair. Whereas you get Lindsay Head up there, another triple McGarry medal, he's terrible. He's the exact opposite. But it's good fun.
I rate Barry as the best I've ever seen, and fortunately I had the privilege to play with him in a number of games. But to do that, I think you've got to certainly qualify. There's been some individually great players that played in individual positions, but what people don't realise is that Barry, I've seen him play in an interstate game against absolute top-class company on a wing. I've seen him win McGarry medals in the centre and at centre-half forward. In the days when it was never heard of, he rucked unchanged for an entire first half of a game. He would have rucked the second half, only the coach decided to rest him. He would have been a sensation in any position you wish to place him, and that above all, to my way of thinking, places him above any footballer I've ever seen.
Well, from the umpiring point of view, Barry Robran was a champion's champion. He was a ball player completely. He never gave us a moment's trouble because all he wanted was the ball, and umpires just weren't there as far as Barry was concerned.
Some players are prone to question the umpire's parentage. Was Barry ever like that? Did he ever disagree with you and tell you about it?
Barry disagreed, and which was his perfect right, especially when he was captain of North Adelaide. But he was never a back chatter or never foul-mouthed. In fact, he was a thorough gentleman through and through. And the fact that he's remained so unaffected after all the accolades and things that have been heaped on him is really a testimony to his upbringing and his character.
You and your colleagues are the people who give the votes for the Magarey Medal on a week-by-week basis. Did he absolutely stand out all those many times?
Oh, yes, there's no question about that. In fact, I think as umpires we expected more of him than we did of some other players. And I think that's true of all champions. We do expect a lot of our champions, and he earned all of his medal.
And he started to absorb a lot of unnecessary knocks, which the opposition handed out to him. Early days he'd accept them and wouldn't worry about them, but then he started to get a bit sick of it, and so he should have too. And he did start to come back with a bit of aggression. Good, strong, fair aggression, nothing out of the book. And I think then he was a better player because he was tougher and he had a bit more devil in him, a bit more aggression in his game. See, Barry never knew any fear as a player. There's not too many players that play footy that don't show fear at some stage. When I say fear, be a little bit careful occasionally. Barry, he didn't know about that. He just went for every ball, regardless of what position he was in, and didn't care, didn't fear any opposition. This is why I think he started to get a few hurts and a few knocks. And it was later on that he started to be aware of this, and he learnt to protect himself. And also, you know, if he and you were going for ball early days, you'd knock him over because he wasn't worried about you. But later on, he was prepared, and it'd be you that'd fall because his body be in a better position to be much more prepared to meet the incoming player. Great player, Robert.
Now as he leaps up high, and there's a mark for you. Beauty, and passes on, taken there by Moore. There by Matthews. Matthews is tied. The brilliant Robran. Robran's mark.